everybody, welcome back for another sublimation tutorial. Today we're going to look at how we sublimate onto glass. So if you want to do like a glass round or just a glass picture, we're going to see how we do that. Today I'm just using a glass photo frame that I picked up from the dollar store. What you'll need for this is your sublimation print, this is on Sawgrass Sublimation Paper. Even though I use an Epson 2803, I still use a Sawgrass paper and works really well. And then I use the Hippoo Ink from Amazon, and the colors are always really vibrant with that. You'll also need thermal laminating pouches, and you do want to make sure they're thermal or they will just melt. These pouches come in half, so you can easily just tear them, and then you end up with 2 sheets of those. And you'll also want parchment paper or butcher's paper, whatever you prefer to use. You'll have one laying down on your mat or your heat press, and one will go on top of it as well. So let's go ahead and get to seeing how we go ahead and sublimate onto the glass. All right, so with the photo frames, obviously you're just going to want to take the back off of the frame and the little paper that usually comes inside of it. And then the glass you'll take out and set everything off to the side until later. With the glass, you don't necessarily need to preheat it or anything like that, but I do like to go ahead and just kind of wipe off where we're going to place the lamination sheet, just to remove any fingerprints or debris that might get trapped under the lamination sheet. So what you'll want to go ahead and do is get your press set to 300 degrees for 30 seconds. I just have my little Cricut heat press, but if you have a huge clamshell press, it might be a little bit different in temperature wise, but it's generally 300 for 30 seconds, no more, because it will just end up melting the lamination sheet. So you want to start with the lamination sheet shiny side up. There is a dull side, and you want that to go down. So we'll go ahead and just cover the glass just like so, and I will go ahead and place my parchment paper over my mat just to help prevent the lamination sheet from sticking too much. And you do want to try to make sure this is flat as you can for right now, just to prevent any bubbling. But if there is bubbling, that's fine. We'll go back and fix it in the final press. And then we'll cover this with another piece of parchment paper or butcher's paper, whatever works best for you. And we'll take our press and we will hold firm pressure for that 30 seconds. All right, so now that we have that tacked down, you'll go ahead and lift it up, and you will see that there are some bubbling. That is okay right now because we're gonna remelt it later on. And if you really want, you can go through and just kind of scrape out the air pockets while it's cool. Just be careful because it is hot, so you don't want to burn yourself while you're doing it, but it kind of squishes out the air pockets so there's less air bubbles. All right, so now at this time, we'll go ahead and take the image that you have printed out. Do note that when you print these out, if you're doing a picture frame or any other frame that you're sublimating onto the back of it, you don't have to mirror it, because when you lay the image down and then flip the whole the picture frame over, it's already going to have that mirror effect because you're flipping it. So when you're doing these, you don't have to worry about flipping the image when you print it. So when I cut mine out, I made it big enough to look good, but also I wanted the clear border around it as well. So I'm going to center it as much as possible, but if you want a full look through your picture frame, just make it the size of the glass that's going in the frame. But now we'll go ahead and center it, and then you will tape it down with heat resistant tape. And I usually just do 2, and it's just so that you're making sure that the image isn't moving. All right, and then you'll go ahead and recover it with your butcher's paper. And then you are gonna wanna increase the time and temperature. The temperature should be at 400 degrees, and we'll do the time for 60 seconds. So I'll go ahead and let that increase, and then we'll move on to pressing the image. All right, so now that we're at 400 degrees for 60 seconds, we're gonna go ahead and press the image, and it's gonna be with good pressure and hold for the full 60 seconds. All right, so go ahead and remove our press, and when you remove it, I like to kind of do a slide off motion. That way you're not lifting your image from the heat, pulling it up. So when you are finished sublimating, there's obviously gonna be some steam. The material is gonna be really hot, so you don't wanna let it sit for a little bit. But if you can notice, you can see the image that's kind of bled through the back of the sublimation paper. And that's always actually a really good thing, because that means the sublimation process worked really well. So we're gonna let this cool off for a little bit. Before we go ahead and remove this image, I do wanna show you a cool little trick that I know, because sometimes if your image hasn't been pressed enough, you're gonna have some pressure spots that you'll notice that didn't press as well. You can go ahead and just real lightly lift up a corner of the image, which is why I only put 2 strips of tape. And you can just lift it up real easily and see that all your image is pressed well. And if it hasn't, you can just lay it back down and repress for a little bit longer, just to make sure the image is pressed evenly. So we'll go ahead and remove this and see what kind of result we get. Again, just be very careful and real gently removing everything. And that should be how your image will come out. I chose the Sanderson sisters because of the upcoming awesome Hocus Pocus movie that's coming out, and we're all excited about that. Go ahead and take your parchment paper off. And at this point, we'll go ahead and you'll notice that it's still pretty translucent, but once you put it in your photo frame, you'll have a background I usually put white paper. And let this cool off, and then we'll finish up just trimming these edges and move along to the next step. All right, so now that it's cooled off enough, you can handle it comfortably. I did just want to show you what it looks like with the white behind it, where now when you put that white behind it, it gives that really nice effect, and you can see all the colors, and it looks like the image it should. But if you want more of a translucent image, that's fine too. So when you're trimming off, you can use regular scissors. I like to just use an X-Acto knife because it gives a really nice clean cut. Just be careful when you're using it. I like to go just at one of the angles or the corners and slide it through, and then have it at a really good angle, almost laying on top of the glass right there. And then you're just gonna slide it across, and it cuts perfectly. And you'll just do that all the way through on all sides until you're finished. And you can just go back and clean up any excess that might be there. So we'll just do that real quick here. Okay. All right, so now we have all our corners cut off. We'll just clean up our little workstation here real quick. And then, like I said, if you notice that you did have any little bubbles, at this point, you can go ahead and place your parchment paper back over. Do not set it on there for too long because you'll overcook the colors. But you can go ahead and just replace for about another 10 seconds just to heat up the lamination. All right, so we have that reheated there. And then at this point, it's reheated. You can go ahead and take a scraping tool and just really gently scrape out any bubbles that you might see. And that way it gives a flatter look. All right, so now that we have everything trimmed up and it's cooled off enough for us to be able to handle it, I like to go ahead and just cut out a plain piece of paper, just the size of the glass or whatever you're gonna be using, so that it'll fit perfectly and you'll have those really pretty vibrant colors that show up, unless you do want that clear effect when you're putting up a picture frame, which is also really cute. But for this one, I really want the colors to pop and show. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then you'll go ahead and just take your picture frame that you had. You'll slide the glass in, and you'll slide the piece of paper over it and put your backing back on, making sure it's the right side up. Put your little notches back down. And there you have it, a really cute and easy way to sublimate onto glass and have a cute little decoration. This one will specifically be for Halloween, of course. If you enjoyed this video, if it helped you, please go ahead and boop that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share for others so they can be helped as well. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting.